Rob Brooker, welcome to the March Roundup Report.
Oh, great to be here.
As predicted by most economists, interest rates left on hold.
Yeah, the Reserve Bank, I think, is looking forward to what inflation's likely to be doing in the longer term. There have been quite a few fluctuations in the economy lately. We've had severe floods in Queensland that have slowed things down a little bit. But I think the Reserve Bank is still pretty much got a forward-looking view, looking at the medium term in setting interest rates.
And speaking of forward-looking views, Prime Minister Julia Gillard wagering her Prime Ministership on a carbon tax. What are your thoughts?
Some sort of arrangements will need to be put in place over the next few years to address the pollution effects of carbon emissions. I think the government is putting forward the idea of a tax to be followed by an emissions trading scheme. We'll just have to see how that legislation finds its way through the Parliament, and there'll be no doubt a pretty hotly contested debate.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens on a global scale regarding carbon emissions taxes. But sticking with the global theme, Wall Street enjoyed its best February since 1998.
Yeah, the American economy is looking a lot better than it has for quite a while. Stock market's looking pretty good. We've seen some pickup in employment and other indicators in the United States. I think that the odds of a double dip, I think, are starting to recede.
Rob, last month it was Egypt, this month it's Libya. What's that doing to the price of oil, and how's that going to impact us here at home?
Oil prices under a bit of pressure, certainly spiking a little bit in response to those disturbances in the Middle East. But the world's pretty much awash with oil at the moment. Reserves are pretty high. But if we saw a sustained rise in prices, then that could well be felt at the pump in Australia down the track.
Now, Rob, we got a great response from our viewers from last month's Roundup Report, where people emailed, tweeted or Facebooked their questions into us. Questions like this one from Amanda from the ACT, who wrote, how do you think the government are going to use interest rates in response to the recent Australian natural disasters?
Well, the Reserve Bank tends to look through fluctuations in activity if it thinks they're temporary, and tends to focus on inflation when it's setting interest rates. And it looks ahead, it looks at medium-term inflation when it's setting interest rates. So it's unlikely that those natural disasters will have much of an influence on the Reserve Bank.
Michael from New South Wales is interested in the Sydney residential property market, and where do you see interest rates over the coming years?
As far as Michael's concerned, the property market's been a little bit soft lately, but there's pretty much an undersupply of housing nationally, so probably on balance some upward pressure on prices in the longer term.
Jason wanted us to know that in our last roundup you mentioned that travellers should enjoy the Australia-US dollar parity while it lasts. He's thinking of travelling to the US and buying extra US currency to keep for a while in the hope that the Aussie dollar actually drops in value again. What are your thoughts on doing this?
Well, I wouldn't want to encourage Jason to engage in any sort of currency speculation. It's always a bit of a hazardous activity. But in terms of what's driving the Australian dollar, you could say that commodity prices are pretty high at the moment. They might edge down a little bit over the next 12 months or so. We might see interest rate differentials narrow a little bit as interest rates rise in the United States and Europe. So possibly a little bit of downward pressure on the Australian dollar over the next 6 to 12 months. So as we said, enjoy it while you can.
Rob, a couple of curly questions there, but I think you handled yourself pretty well, but it's great to see our viewers sending in their questions.
Look, keep those questions coming in, those cards and letters we really appreciate, and if you want to tweet or use Facebook, all the better.
Rob Brooker, thanks for joining us for the March Roundup Report. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Pleasure.